work that he does. One might think that his ministry and his day job are separate. However, you might be witnessing here that we have an interpreter, and one of his he's deeply dedicated to working with the deaf, and so therefore we have an interpreter here today. But he's also deeply dedicated, yes. Like this. He's also deeply dedicated to his ministry and to his path on the ministerial journey, and so I want to bring him up without any further introduction so that you can have your own experience of the Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson.
So I don't know if I should start with a hello or if I should start with a warning, so let's start with the warning. So I used to be a public school teacher. I used to teach at a college, at a university, still teach at a community college, so that there are times that the educator in me comes out. So I warn you now in preface because I may ask you a question. And when I ask certain questions, they are questions for you to answer. The first one I'm starting with is not, but I want you to think about this. Why are you here? Like, really think about why are you here? And I know that you might first initially want to say, I am here for my spiritual development. And you are. And I am here because I love her. And you are. And there are a vast number of reasons why you are here, right? But have you ever stopped to think that you're here because of the person to the left and the right of you? You're here because of the person in the row in front of you or the row behind you? That you are here because of the people across the street or next door? Have you ever really thought about you're also here for them? That you're also here for the people in the White House and the Capitol and all of Washington, D.C. That you're also here for the people in Puerto Rico and Texas and Japan and the rest of this globe. That you are also here for them. Have you ever really thought about that? Now just pause for a second, hold that in your mind. And come here with me, that if you are in a house, and we are roommates, right? Like, I live in this bedroom, you're in the bedroom down the hall and to the left, right? And, like, I burn incense because you know that's what I do. And occasionally, I leave the candles burning well into the night. It's not really the safest thing to do, but it's what I do. And so I go to sleep one night and the candle burns down and my bedroom catches on fire. Does it affect your bedroom? It does. Does it affect yours? Yes. What I do in my bedroom, in my domain, in my consciousness, affects everyone else who lives in the house. If I take this little finger and wrap a rubber band around it really tightly, what happens to the finger? I lose it. But does the loss of this finger not affect the rest of the hand? Do the other three fingers and thumb say, oh, well, we're glad that one's gone because we didn't like that one anyway? Or do they mourn the loss of their brother and sister? Nothing happens in isolation, especially not in consciousness. Anybody ever read the Science of Mind magazine? Okay, I was hoping a couple hands would go up. So in the beginning, there's this passage of 11 we believes, right? And the very first one says, we believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, self-existent cause. This one, the body of God is the manifest universe. We are in the body of God. And what we do affects the entirety of this body of God. So what are we doing in our consciousness that knowingly is changing and transforming the entirety of what is happening in the body of God? See, it's easy to turn on the news and go into the woe is me. What can I do? I'm just one person sitting here in Maryland what can I do? If we stay there, then no, we can do nothing except add to the problem. Because the woe is me is a form of consciousness that goes into the body of God. And my sense of hopelessness and helplessness can affect another person. How many times have you ever sat somewhere and someone starts complaining to you and you go into the, that's right, and we commiserate very quickly. We start amening their negativity. Well, let me tell you what happened to me. And we try to one-up one another in the negative stuff. Rather than saying, well, I don't believe that. Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that this world is going to hell in a handbasket? Do you really believe that we cannot make this a world that works for all? It doesn't matter if you know what that looks like. You don't have to know what it looks like to yield into the belief of it. Anybody in here ever hear of this gentleman by the name of Walt Disney? Okay, well, I'm just asking because sometimes. So Walt Disney at one time came up with this idea that he wanted to create this amusement park, this thing, and went out to look for places to build it and found the perfect spot for where he wanted it to be. And it was in a swamp. And he goes to various architects and blah, 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 and this is where I want to build it, this is what I want to do. And they're like, dude, that's not possible. Boop, next. So this is what I want to do, and this is not possible. Boop, next. This is what I want to do, and this. Till he found the person and said, well, I'm not really sure how, but I think we can do it. You're hired. Are we willing to say, I don't need to know what it looks like to believe that it's possible? I don't have to know what it looks like to know that I believe. I believe in this philosophy. And I mean me personally. Years ago, abused child, survivor of abuse. In 2011, 2012, I weighed 305 pounds, cholesterol through the roof, blood pressure through the roof, to the degree where my physician looked at me in the eye with a prescription pad in hand, ready to write me a prescription because she was afraid that if she let me leave her office, I would never come back because I would die. She teared up. And she said, Ray, I know you have this spiritual practice, and I know for some reason you fell off. But I trust that if I let you leave here, you will do what you need to do. And guess what Ray did? Ray went home and said, dude, come back to the basics. What is it that I know? I know, as you read this morning, Emma Curtis Hopkins always says, very frequently says, God is my good, and my good is God. They are one and the same, not two separate entities, one and the same. Where is my good? My good is right here, right now. My good is not then, and it is not then. It is here, in this present moment. Stepping into the flow, forgiving what I needed to forgive, letting go of what I needed to let go of, releasing what I needed to release. And within that first month, I didn't change my... See, I had this standing date with somebody you might know. You may have seen them before. Krispy Kreme. Yeah, we were like... But I must admit, every now and then, I would cheat and go Starbucks, caramel frappuccino. Actually, yeah. So anyhow, So I didn't change any of that. I didn't change what I was eating. Didn't change how I was eating. Didn't change exercise. I changed nothing in that first month except what was in my consciousness and what was in my heart. And immediately, 15 to 20 pounds left. I was carrying 15 to 20 pounds of emotional and psychic baggage. I know this teaching works. I know this philosophy works. And I know that what I do for myself has no choice but to change and transform everyone that comes in contact. This morning, I'm not going to say any names or single anybody out, but someone came up to me earlier and noticed my cologne. Do you realize that we have an aroma of spirituality? That when we walk into a place, the atmosphere of our faith changes a space. That what we hold in consciousness consciousness, have you ever walked into a room and someone may have been arguing, and they're not arguing now, like they're playing it off like, yeah, everything's fine, we're good. But you feel the tension. Or you're sitting on a bus or in a restaurant and the hairs on the back of your neck stand up or something, it's like somebody's staring at you. And you're like, what is, and you turn around and look and somebody's over there. And it's a baby, and the baby's sitting there and the baby's just staring at you. But you felt their eyeballs on the back of your neck. How could we not think that we don't have some kind of connectedness that, like, I can't explain it, I can't grab it, I can't tangibly show it to you, but we all know, we've all had experiences that say, yeah, it's real. So let's pause for a minute and say, so I noticed that the theme Reverend Alice mentioned, love is safety. Now there's this passage in the Bible where I used to hate this thing because of how I interpreted it way back when. There is no greater love than this, that one would sacrifice one's life. Etc., etc. Sacrifice what? What? Like, in order to say I love you, I have what? But see, the thing is, let this self die, not this self. Because see, this self, the capital S self, your divine self, the I am, cannot die. Lowercase self, the persona that is called Ray, yeah, that can. So, in anybody ever heard of a samurai? You know what samurais are? Yeah. So, in order for the samurai to do what the samurai did in terms of living, the samurai had to die daily. Meaning, relinquish everything that I am attached to in order to truly live freely. And if there is no greater love than this, that I am willing to give up my smallness for you. I am willing to sacrifice that which I am clinging to and holding on to and obsessed about in order to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Because for as long as I'm holding on to, you know I don't like them. Self-righteous indignation. You know they're wrong. I can't believe they had the nerve to march. The tiki torches and I hold it, and I hold it, and I hold it until it rots. And then the stench of it goes into my flesh and into my clothes, so that even when the thing that I am holding from February 13th, 1975, whatever that offense was, it's no longer there. It's in here now. If I am so clinging to that, then how can I truly love? How can I truly love someone else when I am not willing to let go of self? How can I truly be a beneficial presence to another when I am so focused on this tiny little myopic, obsessive, compulsive, I need to be right, rather than I need to be free? And not that I need to be free, because I don't need to be free, I am free. We all are already free. But if we do not sense, feel, experience that, then it's only in here and here that that's occurring. Last summer, I'm walking down Constitution Avenue in Washington, D.C., after having met a friend of mine, at Starbucks actually, but I had tea this time. Don't judge me. Don't claim. And we're having a conversation about, Joel Goldsmith and stuff, like metaphysical stuff, and she's from China, so I'm like, teach me some more Chinese. I need Chinese. So we part, and I'm walking to go, enjoy DC and go back to catch the metro. And as I'm walking, I hear in the distance, nigger! I keep on walking because, like, it didn't register in my consciousness. And then I hear it again, louder. And then I hear it right beside me with a couple other expletives. And I turn, and I see this pickup truck of 5 or 6 young men pointing at me, screaming at me. They're saying this to me. Wait a minute, whoa. Do they not know that that's not what I am? Like, why? And everybody else around me reacts. And that's really what made me look, because they're like, oh, I'm like, what's going on? So I turn and it's like, wow. And then they drive past me and they get stopped at a red light. And the first thing, the very first thought, being honest, first thought that came up in me was, thank goodness I'm not a mutant with Professor Xavier and Wolverine, because if I had telekinetic abilities, I might have flipped the truck. So since I don't have telekinetic abilities to make the truck levitate and scare them, I don't have that ability. What ability do I have? I have the ability to pray. And I'm praying in this moment to come back to because this upset everybody around me. Tears and people were, so I stopped right there in my tracks while they're at the red light, and I said, you know what? There is only one power and one presence. And if there is only one power and one presence, that has to be God. And that God has to be good. They in that truck don't know that. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they are. They don't know why they are. But I know. So let me know for them. Let me pray in this moment that they will, in their right and perfect time, wake up and understand. And I let it go. Because if I'm going to carry it, then I'm going to take it home. And I'm going to bring it to my sister, and I'm going to bring it to my friends, and I'm going to bring it to the community in a way that says, hate is real. Hate exists like it's a power all its own. And it's not. Yes, it is in the scope of temperature. At one end we have warmth, and the opposite end we have the absence of warmth. But cold doesn't have this ability to say, I'm cold and I stand in opposition to heat. It doesn't work that way. It is on a single spectrum called temperature, a single spectrum called light, where there is light and then the absence of light. But it's not a power all its own. So what I'm going to do in this moment of absence of light is be what I know that I am as the light. And what I noticed that did was, the people around me who then rushed to my aid to comfort me were comforted by me. They ran to me to say, oh, are you okay? And we saw what happened. And I mean, they were crying and, wow, I'm fine. How can you be fine? Because then it turned into a quiz. How can you? We just saw what happened. How can you be okay with that? So there's this gentleman by the name of Rumi who tells this great story of this guest house where things come each day. Joys come, sorrows come, and I welcome them all. And I learn and I benefit from them all. And then I let them go their way. They have visited, they brought their gifts, and then I wish them well on their next travels. And they're like, what are you talking some Star Trek stuff? Like, what are you talking about? So I go in further into it and I explain to them, look, I grew up as an abused child. Like, you name the type of abuse and I probably experienced it. And I hated myself and hated my family and hated a whole bunch of people for a whole lot of years. And then I found this philosophy and I learned how to love me. And in learning how to love me, I learned how to love them, even in the midst of their abuse. Doesn't mean I go and I say, I'm here, let the whipping commence. Like, that's not the way it works. But in the midst of visiting, when I experience or when I see any of that, what I'm able to do now, instead of letting hate and anger well up, I'm able to say, well, it's time for me to go. I love you, be well. And I go. Where before it was, I hate you and I'm going to stay. Now I can release and go on. And what I have noticed in that is now they start to grow and change. Now they want to find peace and love and joy. So what I know is that if we are going to talk about how to change and transform this world, to make this a world that works for the good of all, it starts right here. Do we have the love, the capacity to love, beyond the experience of hate? Do we have enough self-love to remove everywhere in our heart, in our consciousness, where the idea that hate is powerful, and release it. Now, in the Bible, excuse me, there are generally 4 characteristics of how they describe or identify love. So there's philia. Philadelphia is named after it. It's brotherly love or friend love. Storge, which is family love, how family loves one another. Eros, we won't talk about that one right now. And then, just saying. We can have coffee afterwards, but you get the point. And then agape, love without conditions. I don't need, somebody posted on Facebook recently that you can't love somebody if you don't know them. Agape says you can. Agape says, I don't need to know you to love you. I love you beyond your gender, your color, your height. I love you beyond that. I love you because I love me. And because I love me, how could I not love you and you and you and everyone? Because if I am made in the image and likeness of all that is good, it is right here showing up in me, with me, through me, and as me. Then how could I not? So the question comes in, do I love me enough to love everybody else? Do I love me enough to love a neo-Nazi who stands beside me and calls me out my name? Whatever that. But I love you because I know what you really are. I know who you really are. And I know these words are coming from a place in your mind and your heart that you don't know what is true. So when I can love you past that, then I remove the power from that. Anybody in here ever see The Wizard of Oz? Anybody in here not ever see The Wizard of Oz? Oh, homework assignment. Homework assignment. I warned you, teacher, homework assignment, make sure you watch it. I'll come over and we can watch, don't blame me. So there's a scene at the beginning, don't want to ruin it for you, but there's a scene at the beginning where the Wicked Witch of the Wicked Witch of the West lands because her sister just house, right? And she's like, I'll get you, blah, 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 blah. And Glenda says, be gone with you. You have no power here. You, neo-Nazi, you, whoever in the government who says whatever you have no power here. Because if I acknowledge that you have power, then I am saying that this one life is not powerful. And see, the thing is, when we say, I am not here just for myself, but I am here for each and every one as well. Why? Because there is one life. That life is magnificent. That life is joyous. That life is bliss, and that life is my life right now. And that's why we are able to change, transform, and make this a world that works for everyone. And so it is.